Hey everybody, Michelle here. I wanted to come out and make this video today because I was having a conversation with a family member last week, and somehow we got on this topic, but it ended up being exactly where we needed to be in our conversation. I was asking him how was he doing. He was asking me how was I doing, kind of just a family check-in. You should check in on people because we've had a lot going on in our family this year. So he was checking in on me, how are you doing? And I'm checking, how are you doing? We relayed to one another various things, stressors and anxieties and depression that we were dealing with. And I kind of wanted to, something kind of told me to tell him this. And when I did, he's like, that was a huge realization moment for me, and you absolutely have to share that information. So here I am sharing this information that came up in our conversation. So in our conversation, we were talking, and what came up to me was to let him know about boundaries. And I don't know everybody's situation and what they're dealing with, but boundaries are necessary in life. And so I kind of explained to him, to me, there are like 3 levels within boundaries. One level is having boundaries, and we all should have them for like everything that we deal with in our life. The next is telling people your boundaries. Having boundaries and people knowing your boundaries are 2 different things. But the 3rd level to me was kind of the most important level, and that was feeling empowered enough and standing in your confidence to be able to enforce those boundaries. And I think some people are between like 1 and 2, and some people are maybe at 1. And not everybody makes it to 3, but knowing about that level 3, I think is what kind of struck him. And having boundaries is one thing. If people don't know what they are because you haven't told them, that's another. But if you haven't been able to efficiently and effectively enforce those boundaries, that's a whole nother level. And for us, we have to do that everywhere in our life. We have to do it at home with our families, and we have to do it at work with our employer and our company if we're entrepreneurs. Having boundaries is very important. And we have to do it in church. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of us, having boundaries at church. There's a lot of us, you all, that are in ministry that don't have boundaries. And I think there's a lot of people that are sad or depressed or have anxiety or have a lot of worry because they don't have the right boundaries in place. There's always kind of a meme floating around that givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. And that's boundary related. People are fine with you having boundaries until it affects them. I'm going to say that again. People are fine with you having boundaries until it affects them. And so in our conversation, he was kind of relaying some things, but not everything. And I'm not a person that necessarily asks you a whole lot of questions. But he was like, yeah, oh my God, that's so huge, and I do need boundaries, but what if, what they're asking to, it's not necessarily like harming me in any way to do it. Okay, but does it need to be done, and does it need to be done by you? So there are some things I think that people won't say, no, that's enough. That's where I draw the line. I'm not doing that, or I'm not doing that anymore. We do have to realize that people are people and they can change their minds. We have a right to change our minds and say, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not taking that anymore. I'm not accepting that anymore. And again, that has to be at home, at work, in friendships, in marriages, in church. I think that's huge. A lot of us can be so happy inside the building of church, but leave church anxious and anxiety riddled and depressed because we don't have boundaries. And now with work, we're taking on more than we really should be, than we really have bandwidth to or mental capacity to do. And now we are stretched to our limits, and some are literally biting their fingernails like, how am I going to get this done? And I said I would do it, because you didn't enforce your boundaries. And you have to be confident and empowered enough to do that, enough to say, no, enough is enough for me. I'm not going to do that anymore. I've had my fill of doing that. This is where I draw the line with that. Somebody else needs to do that for you. I'm not doing it anymore. You have to be empowered enough to say no and be okay with the responses that you're going to get from that no. Every response to your no is not going to be positive. Everyone is not going to be affirmative and accepting your no. Guess what? That's okay too. But you have to be okay with that and look at the ones that don't accept your no and then go on the attack with, how dare you tell me no? Well, guess what? How dare you put that expectation on me and not allow me to be human enough to change my mind, not allow me to be human enough to say no. And, once you start to say no to people, people really do start to show you who they are. And it doesn't matter who that is in your life. It could be your spouse. It could be a partner in ministry at church. It could be your colleague or your supervisor. It could be your kids. I sometimes, within reason, say sometimes you have to be okay to disappoint people. Meaning sometimes you really have to stick to your no, and there's going to be some things that you don't come to. There's going to be some things you don't do. Regardless of the expectation that somebody has on you and for you to do it, set the boundary and say no. If they don't believe your no, well, that's on them. If they don't accept your no, that yet again is on them. But you have to stick by, stand in, and enforce your no so people will understand where your boundaries are. Make healthy boundaries for yourself, like for you onto yourself. To kind of start to get back some of your peace and get back some of your joy, and learn how to tell people, guess what? This is what I need from you. This is what I'm going to give you. Set the standard. Have a boundary for those standards. Enforce those standards and those boundaries. And if people don't like it, okay. So a lot of things people aren't going to like that you do. Okay. But if you don't make it known, if you don't speak up, you're going to keep having that voice rattling around in your head. Well, you should say no. You should say no. Now they're this and that. You know what? Don't let that voice in your head cause you to become bitter against someone else for something that you should have done or not done or stopped doing a long time ago. Don't let your non-action cause you to have some sort of angst against someone else, some sort of grudge against someone else for something that you should have long since stopped doing, stopped accepting, and spoke up and out against. These are, I don't know, sometimes I feel like that's how adult life works, but it actually doesn't necessarily work that way. I think in sometimes my fairy tale world, some things like this work that way and people are okay with it. And then reality comes in that people are not okay with you having boundaries that affect them. That when your no now causes them to do more than they used to do, now they have a problem. When your no causes them to have to be more independent or be more reliable or be more aware and present in their own life, yeah, people are going to have a little bit of kind of like, hey, back up. They're not going to always be kind of like, oh, yeah, bring that responsibility on my way and I'm going to take it on. No. People are going to come back. In most cases, a lot of people are going to have a, oh, how dare you type of attitude towards that. Just be aware of where those people are in your life and who they are, and really take stock of that, because it literally could be anybody. It could be your parent that you have to set a healthy boundary for. And you say, you know what? No, I can't do that anymore. That then they now have something against you in some way. Now they're angry because now you don't do something you used to do for them. Okay, well, I can't do that anymore. Or with the child, you can't attend everything. You can't put them in every event. You can't put them in every activity. Some things, there has to be boundaries. There has to be limits. There has to be standards of this is what we do. This is what we don't do. This is what I'm not going to do. But it needs to be done in a healthy way. It needs to be done in a respectful way to yourself, and then to them, because you have to do it for yourself first. But it needs to also be done in a consistent way. It's one thing to have the boundary, to tell people the boundary, and then enforce the boundary on some occasions. Like, oh, I'm gonna let this one slide. Guess what? Now you done slipped and kept slipping. Now you tripping, and they're going to keep on. Give an inch, they'll take a mile. So you have to consistently set those boundaries. And sometimes it's with parents with adult children. I think you really have to stand on your confidence in yourself and in your no to say, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. Have boundaries. Tell people your boundaries, but enforce your boundaries. Be okay with telling people no. I know a lot of people don't want to believe this about themselves, or acknowledge it, but we have a lot of people pleasers who don't like to tell people no, for fear of one thing or another. And it's okay to tell people no. It doesn't always feel good, because you don't know how they're going to react to your no. I think a lot of times we're fearful to set boundaries and have boundaries and enforce the boundaries because we're fearful of people's responses. But that's people pleasing, and that's living your life for other people and not for yourself. And now, how are you left to enjoy your life in a healthy mental and emotional state if all you're constantly doing is giving, and you don't set the boundary to say no? So we had kind of a long conversation Obviously, it wasn't this one-sided monologue, but I think I kind of really gave the meat of what we talked about, and I think that it was helpful for him to hear it, to acknowledge it, and to start to grasp it. And he acknowledged, he said, I'm not there yet, but now that I know that place, that's somewhere I think I can get to, or that I need to get to. But I think some people don't know that there is possible, that you can have boundaries, you can tell people your boundaries, but you can be empowered enough to enforce those boundaries for yourself. So I really, really hope that this helped somebody today, and we have to be okay enforcing our boundaries so that others understand what you ain't gonna do. So, like I said, I really hope that that helps somebody, that somebody really kind of takes a look around. And when you tell somebody no, you really start to understand where you stand with them. Okay? All right. So thank you guys. I appreciate you tuning in today. I will have something else for you guys. I am so certain of it, because I have so many great conversations with people that I wish I recorded at that time, but I didn't. So now I just get to come talk to you guys about it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this little topic today. I promise to bring you more topics soon. Please like, comment, subscribe, and if there's anything that you want me to cover, talk about, have an opinion about, I will be covering other things as well, not just life stuff, but all kinds of life stuff, right? I don't know. Yeah, let me know in the comments, and I will be certain and sure to give that some time and attention and some thought, so that I can bring you something that I hope is realistic, helpful, and informative for you. All right, guys, so have a good one. Thank you.